Before we begin, I would like to make a small disclaimer. I am not a fan of Rise of Skywalker. I had many issues with the film, most of which will not be covered in this video. I think this movie has lots of plot holes, retcons, unnecessary dialogue, Mary Sue moments, incredibly convenient series of accidents, and many more sins. In this video, I'm not so much attesting to the quality of the movie itself, as much as addressing the overarching themes of the new trilogy, with some emphasis on The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. I hope that people understand that I am at best playing devil's advocate. It is just my opinion at the end of the day, and if you're upset by it, get a life. Perhaps one of, if not the most discussed topics of the new trilogy was who is Rey? Is she a daughter of Luke? Is she a granddaughter of Obi-Wan? Is she Yoda's mother? Did she blow Mace Windu's float? The Star Wars fanbase is divided as directors, producers and creators involved with the new trilogy seem to send mixed signals on this subject. Episode 8 soundly established that Rey is a nobody in multiple ways. Rey ventured into the Mirror Cave, as named by Rian Johnson, where she was meant to find all the long-desired answers. Yes, he did say that the cave reflects Rey's worst fear, being alone, but this scene right here is anything but obviously addressing the question we all have been asking: who are her parents? It turns out they're nobodies, and she is all she ever had. Later on, Kylo Ren, in his desperate attempt to turn Rey dark, reveals what she had already knew all along.
Say it.
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. The dead in a pauper's grave in the Jakku desert.
Also, the fact that Luke did not recognize Rey and didn't show any signs of knowledge of her past seems to reaffirm that. For all these reasons, towards the end of the movie, Rey is finally finding peace with who she is, which is demonstrated by her successful rescue of the remaining resistance and her sexy death stare into Kylo Ren's eyes filled with darkness, setting up what should have been the most climactic duel of good and evil in the final episode. Yet, Rise of Skywalker suddenly set Rey 2 movies back.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
With her now wondering once again, where did she come from? Suddenly it is revealed that Rey is Emperor's granddaughter.
What? What the fuck?
Which was revealed to her once again by Kylo, who must have been manipulated by Palpatine before in saying that her parents are nobodies. Now, I'm no expert in writing, but suddenly bringing a dead villain to life without proper build-up,
That's just lazy writing.
this revelation does not seem to make sense at all. First of all, if she was completely stranded, why didn't Palpatine find and train her from her youth? Why did he have to wait this long? If her location was hidden from him, how could he have possibly predicted for her to be found and brought to him eventually by Kylo Ren? I mean, the more you think about it, the deeper the rabbit plot hole goes. I mean, even Maskanata said in episode 7,
Dear child, I see your eyes. You already know the truth. Whomever you're waiting for on Jakku, they're never coming back.
surely this truth was that she is a nobody, which is why she made peace with it in The Last Jedi. Or was Mas also manipulated by the Emperor? Was perhaps JJ and Kathleen Kennedy manipulated by the Emperor or by the corporate overlords? JJ definitely did a U-turn on Rey's parents, retconning The Last Jedi in the process.
Good.
This one may be slightly dubious, but please bear with me. Kylo Ren was from the start of the trilogy set up as someone with the goal of achieving true power in the dark side. Betrayed his master, turned to the dark side, killed his dad, almost killed his mom, wore a helmet and a lot of black clothing. He was set up anything but a guy who wasn't trying to choose between the light and the dark, but trying to scorch out any remains of the good that was left in him. So while some people interpreted the scene as Kylo choosing which side to move on with, for me, it was like a last step for him to take in order to become complete in the dark side. Kylo was always shown to possess
raw, untamed power,
filled with emotions, passion, rage, hatred and anger, which made him by all accounts a true Sith and an ultimate villain. Rian Johnson took this even further by making Kylo completely unredeemable and setting him up as the ultimate big bad in the trilogy's conclusion, killing off Snoke only to take his place, practically murder his mother, and practically annihilating remaining resistance. By the end of episode 8, there was just no logical or reasonable way for him to come back to the light after all the attempts by his parents, Luke and Rey, to turn him good. In fact, both Leia and Luke reaffirmed that.
and I can't save him.
I held out hope for so long, but I know my son's gone.
Unlike Anakin, Kylo wasn't nearly as taunted by his actions, which was meant to erase any sympathies of the audience towards him. Then comes the Rise of Skywalker. Suddenly, after killing his master, he is now obliging a new one. Perhaps Kylo became drunk with power and saw Palpatine as the final step to achieve that, but that would reaffirm that Kylo is lost more than ever. However, that's not the case when Leia across the universe whispers to Kylo one last time before dying, distracting him in the process from his duel with Rey. Rey uses this opportunity to severely wound him. I can understand how that would distract Kylo, but why did that make him turn? Because he found out his mother is alive? But she was alive all along, could he not felt it? Rey healed him, which is an act of selflessness and demonstration that she wants to save Kylo. But was this not done already in the throne scene in The Last Jedi? This step towards redemption makes no sense as it did not bring anything new to the table. Suddenly Kylo started doubting and regretting what he has done, even though this was never shown before. Imagine that you suddenly started regretting about something you did 20 years ago without any reason at all. Yes, this redemption does resemble Darth Vader's one, but remember that Luke said this.
There is still good in him.
It was never implied that there was any good left in Kylo, at least prior to the Rise of Skywalker, which makes it a retcon. One of the biggest criticisms of The Last Jedi was Rian Johnson's treatment of Luke Skywalker. Fans across the board have criticized the director for turning their personal hero into a pathetic, delusional coward. During his conversations with Rey, Luke said that he severed ties with the Force and the Jedi, and initially heavily resisted training Rey and providing any sort of help. Granted, in the final act of the movie, Luke kind of saves the Resistance, thus redeeming himself. But how come he didn't face Kylo himself? It seems to me that this is because he was scared of losing. In fact, why would he suddenly build up the courage and restore his belief in the Jedi? Apart from conducting an illusion, Luke really didn't do that much. And there was no compelling argument for why he restored his faith in the Jedi ways. Even more so, Luke abandoned the Jedi ways because he lost his nephew to the dark side. As he himself said to Rey in The Rise of Skywalker, Leia knew all along who Rey was, which means Luke and Han knew as well. What makes Luke think that he will have more success with the daughter of one of the evilest Siths in the galaxy, as opposed to his own nephew? It's as if JJ simply ignored episode 8 and brought back the confident Luke Skywalker that we last saw in The Return of the Jedi. Also, suddenly Luke was studying sacred texts because he knew Palpatine was alive and the text would lead to him. Not only this doesn't make sense because Luke himself said he was looking for isolation to live his last days off in solitude, why wouldn't he at least relay this incredibly important piece of information to the Resistance? Once again, a direct contradiction to episode 8. One of the aspects that I really enjoyed in the new trilogy is the Force connection between Kylo and Rey. This made complete sense to me, at least for the reason of people being generally Force sensitive. Force users can feel presence of other Force users,
I sense something, a presence I've not felt since...
can feel how powerful they are, and most notably, feel their deaths. I do not see how establishing an actual communication between such Force users is a stretch. In fact, JJ hinted at this in episode 7 when Kylo saw Rey in her vision of the future. It is a logical progression and evolution of the Force use. Furthermore, some claim that teleporting a lightsaber is also a jump from The Last Jedi, but in this scene we clearly see Kylo being wet from the rain that Rey was standing under. This setup and evolution of the Force connection is built well, and served its purpose when Kylo received a lightsaber from Rey, which at the time helped him to defeat the Knights of Ren. As such, I think this concept works coherently across the whole trilogy, and therefore is not a retcon. While it's hard to believe that Luke was using sacred text to learn Palpatine's location, they have indeed proved to have a purpose. In fact, unlike most of the elements, the texts are probably the only instrument that was carefully crafted by Johnson rather than just that of containing Jedi knowledge. This was reinforced by Yoda, who burned the library against Luke's will, while obviously knowing that Rey had sneaked out the texts. He even says,
Wisdom they held, but that library contained nothing that the girl Rey does not already possess.
Now, of course there is not even a smidge of evidence given in The Last Jedi that the text mentioned Palpatine's vacation home, so it's not like this is not a plot hole in itself. But if we talk about the text being an instrument, but not about the goal of this very instrument, it kinda checks out. In conclusion, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is an irredeemable pile of mess. Even though I really tried to go out there and look for something that could at least make me try to ignore all the plot holes, retcons and inconsistencies, it seems that the evidence is simply overwhelming. Let's hope that the new trilogies will be planned ahead of production. Thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to know what your thoughts on the retcons in these movies are, whether you disagree with some or have some of your own that have been bothering you for a while. Please let me know down in the comments and please don't forget to subscribe if you would like to see more videos like this one. Thanks again and see you soon.